So today's presentation is officially titled Technology and 21st Century Skills. That was kind of I think it was kind of a placeholder while I picked something more specific, and then just kind of stuck. So what I'm also calling it is Free Graphics, Audio, and Video for Education, and I've got a subtitle in there, aka Reusing Copyrighted Content. I'll talk about why I chose that in just a moment. And you know what? I've actually got an opening poll, so this is going to be interactive. So I've got a lot of little polls in here. You should be seeing a poll now, and you can answer, and then I think only I can see the results, and I'll report back on that. So there's 4 of you, 1 of me. If you'd like to answer, that's great. And it's just something to start us off, and for me to help me see where you are. All right, so I've got 3 of 4 have voted. Let's see, how familiar are you with the definition of copyright? We have 1 person who's a little familiar and 2 people that are very familiar, which is great. And number 2, how familiar are you with open educational resources or Creative Commons licenses? And 2 of you are somewhat familiar, 1 very familiar. So good, that's awesome. Copyright is kind of a tricky subject, and I have an educator's understanding of copyright combined with a librarian's understanding of copyright. So I'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. We've got a small crowd here tonight, but this is being recorded. Cynthia, after the presentation's over, I'll trim off the beginning where it's just me sitting around staring at the webcam, and I can share that file with you through Dropbox if you'd like me to do that. All right, so let's start this off. All right, so the subtitle for this is, well, I guess I should say it's the main title, Free Graphics, Audio, and Video for Education. So the idea of this presentation is to give you some resources and also skills to help you find and reuse free graphics, audio, and video. A subtitle might be, aka Reusing Copyrighted Content. A few more are joining us. Awesome. Hi, Hugo. Who else is here? Hi, Sally. Thanks for coming. All right, we're just now jumping in, so welcome. Okay, so let me get back to my PowerPoint here. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about, towards the second half of the presentation, where to find openly licensed graphics, audio, and video to use in teaching. And I probably should have switched these bullet points, because the first thing we're going to talk about is more about the how to properly reuse the free stuff you find. So in the description of this presentation, I said that not everything that's free is okay to reuse, so we're going to talk about how you can figure out how to reuse this stuff and what you can and can't reuse. So I chose this topic because with the age of the internet, we have a sea of information, and as a librarian, it drives me crazy when people say everything's on the internet, but there is a lot on the internet, and navigating copyright is a 21st century skill. And I wanted to add that if you're an educator and you're working in a nonprofit or in a school setting, that doesn't automatically protect you, and your reuse is a copyrighted material. So if you're familiar with fair use, that goes a little ways, but it doesn't go far enough that you don't have to think about copyright at all. So hopefully I'm going to make this at least sort of interesting. I do have a lot of little polls throughout the presentation. So at the very end, I have a Kahoot quiz. I do have a lot of slides. This is my first time doing this exact presentation, so we'll see how I pace myself. And if you have questions as we go, definitely put them in the chat box. As Kelly says, something is on the internet is like saying something is in the ocean. Exactly. There's so much stuff out there, so we can sort through it together. All right. So in short, copyright is what you have as the creator of any given work. It's the exclusive legal right to print, publish, perform, film, record, and to authorize others to do the same with the work that you create. So whenever you create something, you hold the copyright to it. You don't have to register it. You don't have to do a trademark. You don't have to do anything formal or legal. It's just something that you automatically hold. And so what that means is that if you write like an essay for class, and then you see your essay appear later on in a website, hopefully that's not really a thing that happens, I don't think. You can always tell that website to take it down because that's your copyrighted work and you would have a claim to that legally. So the flip side of that is that we also have materials that are public domain. Oh, and Kelly says, not be created for your company. They own the copyright. Yes, Kelly's absolutely right. This is good to say from the very beginning. And Kelly has to think about this a lot for her company. I'm talking about things that you create on your own, not using company resources and not using company materials or knowledge. So I'm talking about things like if you are an illustrator in your free time, you're drawing pictures, if you are writing an essay for your class, but if you are doing things at work, that's a whole other thing. And we actually, I work in higher education at State Fullerton, and we actually have some really complicated copyright and intellectual property rules as a faculty member. So I still own the things that I create for State Fullerton, but so does the university. It gets screwy. So anyways, things that are outside of work. All right, so back to public domain. So public domain is basically the flip side of copyright. It's something that's copyright free, either because the person that owns the copyright decided just to put it out into public domain, or because it's been in existence for so long that under copyright law, the original creator is either dead or no longer has right to the copy of it. So you'll see a lot of things labeled as public domain on the internet, and that's one of two reasons that they are free to use. And that means you can do whatever you want with it. If it's public domain, have at it, do whatever you want. If it's copyrighted, you have to think a little bit about it first. So I'm really big on the open educational resources and Cal State's Affordable Learning Solutions movement. You may have heard of things that are open software, open source, openly licensed. You may have heard of things called open educational resources. These are things that are openly licensed usually and can be reused in your class. So openly licensed usually means it has a Creative Commons license on it. Creative Commons is a non-profit organization that basically hired a few lawyers and they wrote out some licenses. And what they do is basically as the copyright holder, so say you are a teacher and you wrote a lesson plan and only you have the copyright, you can put your lesson plan out onto the internet with a Creative Commons license attached to it that you choose. And what that does is it tells people up front that it's okay to reuse your work per the terms of the license. Otherwise, if you just posted a lesson plan, it's copyrighted work. So someone would probably steal it if you post it online, but you could always chase them down if they're reposting it because you own copyright. Creative Commons license basically just preemptively says it's cool to reuse my work and here's the terms under which to do it. So Creative Commons is the most commonly known license, and any open educational resource worth its salt has a Creative Commons license on it. And that's just someone was kind-hearted enough to take their original work, put it onto the internet, and assign a license so that others could reuse it. And that's basically the heart of the open movement, is that we're all putting our own copyrighted work onto the internet and telling other people it's totally cool to use this. So whenever I create tutorials, for example, using Storyline, I post the raw files and the published files as well, and I put a Creative Commons license on them so that people can use them. So let's talk about this a little bit more. So basically, when you find a lot of stuff on the internet, sometimes you're not sure where it came from, who owns it, and it can be hard to figure out who to even ask. Sorry, so here's someone chatting. I'm going to mute you. Okay. Okay. So if somebody already has a Creative Commons license on it, you don't have to ask them. You just have to reuse it according to the terms of the license. And as a copyright holder, you have the right to put a Creative Commons license on your work, as long as, of course, you are the copyright holder. So that brings me to my next mini poll. I'm going to launch this and polling. Okay, where is it? It's my first time using polling with this. Okay, next poll. Have you used Google Images to find graphics? And if yes, have you used Google Images Tools feature? Nicole's question is, do you have to actually copyright something, or does simply creating it copyright it? Simply creating it means that you hold the copyright. In its simplest form, you have the right to copy. So you have the right to distribute copies of it, basically. So yeah, you automatically own it. If your work that you own the copyright to because you created it, if it was distributed without your permission, you have the right to go to court and legally chase down people that have used your work without your permission. All right, the poll results are in. All of you have used Google Images to find graphics, which I figured we all love Google Images. And about half of you, 3 of you have used the Tools feature to filter your results by usage rights, and 4 of you have not. So the reason I asked this is, let me go to the next slide because it's a really boring looking slide. Oh, let me end polling. Okay. The reason I ask this is if you are just using Google Images and you're not sorting out what you're looking at, most of that work, or maybe about half of it, is actually copyrighted work. So if you were reusing it and someone was feeling, I don't know, upset about other people reusing their work, you might get an angry email from somebody. If you are using the Tools feature, there's actually a way for you to limit your results by Creative Commons or other openly licensed works that you don't have to worry about the copyright aspects of it because they tell you up front what you can and can't do with it. So what you usually see again is the Creative Commons license, and there are 4 aspects of a Creative Commons license. So let me pull up my little virtual laser pointer. All right, so the one on the left is the attribution clause. So all Creative Commons licenses require that you attribute the creators. That sounds pretty fair, right? So even if you tell people you can do whatever you want with this, you just have to give me credit, that's the bare minimum for Creative Commons. So that's really nice because you can release your work and people aren't just going to reuse it, they're going to give you credit for it and you get recognition for your work. A lot of the time, people like me, we just want recognition, just acknowledgement that you made a cool thing and you get credit for it. This next one, it's an equal sign. It actually means no derivatives. And that means you found someone's really neat photograph that you wanted to reuse. If it had a Creative Commons license on it with no derivatives, it would mean that you have to use the photograph exactly as is and you can't change it at all. So no color tinting, no cropping, no nothing. So that one's kind of lame and it kind of isn't really in the spirit of being truly open. This one is non-commercial. I use this one kind of a lot, especially with my storyline tutorials. This just prohibits companies from reselling your work. So unless this is on there, technically people could repackage and resell your work as long as they're following the rest of the terms of license. You know, they're giving you credit, they're following the other stuff. And this one is a share-alike clause. So if someone puts this as part of the license, it means if you were to re-release the work in a different package, you'd have to put the same license on. I'm not going to talk too much about that because that's a whole other thing. All right, so I'm showing my title slide again because in the bottom left, I just want to point out that I did put a Creative Commons license on this work. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on it. So as I mentioned, I like to assign Creative Commons licenses to a lot of my work, including my presentations, and these are just PowerPoint slides, so I just put the basic license on these kinds of works. So you'll see that it says CC, all Creative Commons license graphics have that little CC showing that it's a Creative Commons license, and this one is just by. So then it's actually spelled out right here, and this is actually linked to the legalese on the Creative Commons website. So if you wanted to reuse my PowerPoint, you could. There is the URL for it. And you just have to follow the terms of license and credit me appropriately. So Nicole asks, does it cost anything to put the Creative Commons on it? It does not. The Creative Commons agency, I don't really know what to call it, it's not a company, they're an organization. They just have a really neat website where they actually have a license picker where you decide what you're okay with people doing with your work, and it'll walk you through it and just spit out the license for you at the end, and you just copy and paste. That's it. So they're a nonprofit that exists just to make our lives easier and to promote people sharing their work. Kelly says, do you find the CC, oh, where do you find it? Creative Commons website. If you just Google Creative Commons license picker, it'll come right up and it gives you the whole thing along with the link. And so the legal part of this is if your person reusing your work clicks on that link, it does take you to the legalese, the legal language that actually backs all of this up. So you don't have to be a lawyer to give other people a license to use your work, which is really nice. All right. And I'll have the link again for my slides at the end of this presentation, so don't worry if you missed it, it'll be back. So these are the 6 possible Creative Commons licenses. You'll see that they all have a mix. They all have the attribution clause, the by, and then it's basically just the other possible combinations. And I won't go into the details of why some of these are possible and why some aren't. But you'll see, for example, this one is you have to attribute me and you can't use it commercially. You have to attribute me and you can't make derivatives, so on and so forth. So that's just a quick overview of what that looks like. All right, time for our next poll. You can see I'm a little bit poll happy in this presentation. All right, launching that one. I think I've gotten faster at this. Let's see, I'll catch up with questions here. Okay. Yes, Cynthia asked if I would share the link to the Creative Commons website. Do you all see that poll? It's a Creative Commons license poll. No one's voted yet. I'm not sure if you see it or not. Oh, never mind. There it is. Okay. Yes, while you do that, I will find the Creative Commons license picker or chooser. I can never remember. There it is. All right, so close to that. Give you another few moments to respond to the poll. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end polling so that we can continue moving along. Let's see. So let me do the recap on this slide. So that's kind of a little self-check for you. Yes, a Creative Commons license proactively gives you permission to reuse something that's copyrighted. It doesn't take away your copyright. You're not throwing away your copyright. You could decide to take off the Creative Commons license later on so no one new can reuse your work. As a copyright holder, yes, you can assign it to your own work. And if you reuse a work, oops, I have a little bullet points for this I should be going through. And if you use a CC BY licensed work, yes, you must attribute the creator. For all licenses, you have to attribute the creator, but for a CC BY license, that's basically all you have to do. All right, moving right along here. Okay, so finding and reusing openly licensed content. So on the first slide, or the beginning of this presentation, I asked all of you what your experience was with Google Images and with using the tools feature in Google Images. So say I did a search for dinosaurs because I'm teaching a unit on dinosaurs, and also I just like doing searches for dinosaurs. This is the basic search that I see. When I do a search for dinosaurs in Google and hit images, this is what I see. Now, a lot of this is actually copyrighted content. So if you go to the tools button right there, you'll see these little options right here pop up. I use this all the time. And usage rights allows you to filter by open licenses. So these are usually Creative Commons licenses. So I like the top one labeled for reuse with modification. So if I click on that, it's going to bring me back only images that have a Creative Commons license that allows me to reuse it and allows me to modify it. So you'll see how those results change. So now I have that selected, the labeled for reuse with modification. And now when I go through these, a lot of them are public domain and all the rest are Creative Commons. So that's really helpful when I'm trying to find something to reuse. So just to recap what this looks like, this is a really, really handy feature to use in Google Images that I really encourage you to use. So otherwise, if you're not using this, you're just getting everything that's copyrighted. You have to go through things one by one. So this is a really nice once-over to do for your results, so you can sort things out and get things that are more likely to be openly licensed. So I did some quick explanations of what each of these was because they're not very clear in Google Images. But what it comes back to is I recommend choosing the first one because this gives you things that you can reuse in any scenario and that you can change any way that you like. And you still have to double check when you go into each image to see what the exact license is, but it's a nice way to do initial sort. All right, so I see a couple of questions in the chat. Let me scroll up. Okay, so I did the chooser. Oh, Catherine asks, does a $sign mean that we cannot use content in a fee-based program? That is correct, because that would be a commercial purpose. So if something is licensed as you can't use it commercially, that means you couldn't use it in a fee-based program. That's absolutely right, so it's kind of tricky. If we cite someone else's work and reference the author can not be made CC, I'm not sure I fully understand the question, Catherine. If you reuse someone's work and it's a Creative Commons licensed work, it's still a Creative Commons licensed work when you use it, and that's also why you have to cite it. And we'll talk about citing it in just a minute. If you want to rephrase your question, if I didn't answer it, please do, and just repost it. All right, let's get back to this. All right, so here is an example of one of the super cool pictures I found in my Google Images search using the usage rights tool. It's pretty dramatic. Someone's painting that they did. So you can see that this is from Flickr up here. Here's the person that posted it. Here's the image name. And right here, you see the Creative Commons license. Now, this isn't always the most clear, but you can see it's got the little attribution picture, and it says some rights reserved. If you hover over it, it'll actually say it's a CC BY license, and that'll appear in the bottom corner. So I'll come back to that in just a second, but I want to talk really quick about how you would cite this. So you do need to give credit where credit is due. It's really cool that people are putting their work online for you to reuse and putting licenses on it, and in exchange, you just need to give proper credit for it. Renata asks, would pictures be included in this? Yes. Basically, you can use a Creative Commons license for basically anything, mostly creative works. There are other licenses that might be more appropriate if you are doing software code or something else, but generally pictures, essays, tutorials, Adobe Photoshop files, these sorts of things are really appropriate for a Creative Commons license. So to cite, holding up your end of the bargain here, there's 4 things you have to do. The first one's obvious, credit the creator. You need to state the title of the work. You need to list the license itself, so you need to tell people wherever you're reusing it, this is why I'm reusing it the way that I am, because it has this license. And you have to link back to the source, and that one's really important. A lot of the time people stop at just listing the Creative Commons license. They say it was Creative Commons licensed, I can do whatever I want with it. Well, no, that's not okay. You need to go back and give credit where credit is due. It's the least you can do since someone is cool enough to make this available online. So I'll show you how this works. And this does take work. I acknowledge this does take work, and it's easy to be lazy, but I'm showing you the right way to do things. All right, so back to this super cool image of the dinosaurs. Say I want to use this in my class. Here is how I cite it. So again, there's a little Creative Commons license right there. So the creator is Flickr user James St. John. I got that from the Flickr page. Title of the work, it's a super catchy title, but I copy and pasted the entire thing. So when you hover over that little some rights reserved, it tells you exactly what Creative Commons license it is. This one's CC BY 3.0. The 3.0 just means it's an older version of the license. Again, Creative Commons is a nonprofit organization that has their own team of lawyers to write legal language that backs each of these up. Occasionally they need to update that. So technically this one's under the 3.0 version. Right now we are on 4.0. And that's okay. It's still, everything's basically still the same. It's just if you're a lawyer, maybe you know something different in the legalese, but who's going to read that? And then link back to the source. So Flickr sometimes has some really simple URLs. You can just copy and paste that out of the browser bar. Sometimes it has a little share button, and you can get the link from that too. All right, so the next slide, I'm going to bring it all together. So it's a long citation. I know this feels a lot like doing a paper for one of your classes, and I empathize. But here it is. So this is the way that I do it. And the formatting, there is no formatting. This isn't like APA or MLA or something else where if you don't italicize something, someone's going to get mad at you. This is the way that I tend to do it just to make it kind of clear. I think it's pretty clear to put the title of it in the quotation marks. I put the username. I put the word user because a lot of the time you just get someone's username, you don't get their real name. James St. John may or may not be a real name, but when using other websites, you get weirder stuff. So I just make sure to put, that's the username. I put used under CC BY 3.0, and then I link back to the source. So again, it's important to include all of this because not only are you giving credit to the creator, you're also helping drive traffic potentially to their website, which is good for them because they're getting all the recognition that they would want. All right, so next one, let's practice this. So I found this super cool picture of a really fancy library online, And this is a really simple one answer question for you to start practicing how you would do this yourself. Let me launch that. All right. So go ahead and try to decide using this slide which of these citations is complete. If it's covering the slide or something, let me know. I'm not sure what it looks like on your end having this poll pop up. I'll give you a few moments to do that. I also hope those answers aren't getting cut off. The answers can be kind of long. You might need to make the window bigger if they're too small. Okay, so 6 of you have voted. So the correct answer is, I'm just going to leave this up because I just realized I didn't make a slide that has the correct answer on it. The correct answer is, looks like the first one. So it's milkabbeylibrary.jpg by user M. Gonzalez, used under CC BY 4.0, and it has a, let's see, is everything? Let's double check my own answer here. Yeah, and it has a link back to the original website. So it has the title, it has the creator, it has a Creative Commons license, and it has a link back to where I got it from. So the other ones are all missing something. So good work. Most of you got the one right, and we'll have some more exciting opportunities for practicing your citing skills in just a few minutes. All right. So again, if you have questions as I go along, feel free to stop me. I think we've got another poll and a couple of slides, so let's move on, shall we? All right, so I think a lot of you are educators, and some of you might be asking yourselves, what about fair use? So let's talk about that. All right, so I covered copyright. I covered the very, very basics of Creative Commons. I know it's kind of a weird thing sometimes when you're just getting started to wrap your mind around. Touch briefly about public domain. Again, that's things that, see the C with the X over it, that means they're copyright free. You can do whatever you want with those. And we haven't talked yet about fair use. So let's go ahead and do the fair use poll to see how you feel about fair use. Let me launch that. All right, 2 questions. I'd like to know what you know about fair use. Give you a few moments to read and answer those. All right, so your answers coming in, and they're kind of all over the place. This is fun. Some of you are changing your answers. Oh no, there's just more coming in. All right, 7 of you have voted. 8 of you have voted. Awesome. All right, 9 of you have voted. Oh, I love this. Okay. This is a tricky question. Well, I guess the second one is. So number 1, under fair use, let me see. Actually, I should have this on the next slide. So number 1, under the fair use principle of copyright law, you can post or reuse copyrighted materials without paying a licensing fee. Sometimes you can. That is true. That's what fair use is for. So fair use exists to protect educational uses, satirical uses. I can't remember the other ones, but as an educator, I always remember educational and satirical. So that's true. Even if things are copyrighted and people don't have a Creative Commons license on it and they haven't written you a formal letter saying you can reuse it, there are instances where you can reuse a copyrighted work. But there are no hard and fast guidelines, and I love breaking people's hearts apparently. So it is not a thing that you can use up to 10% of a book in your class without paying licensing fees under fair use. A lot of faculty think so. It's one of those fair use myths. There have been court cases that have recognized that's generally about fair, but it's not technically a hard and fast rule. And if you are intending on using the same section of a book every year, you should probably just go ahead and get the course pack, because if you do it over and over and over, it's not really okay. And again, this is how things should be rather than how we actually work in reality. But I'm all about giving you the, here's how to do it, and then, you know, you go on the rest from there. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this. All right. Oh, good. I wrote down the criteria of the fair use principle. All right, so there are 4 criteria under which you can reuse a copyrighted item without paying the licensing for it under these criteria. So it can be the purpose of the use. So again, if it's educational, if it's critical, if it's satirical, it's okay. That's one factor under which it may be okay for you to reuse. The nature of the work, if it's published or unpublished, you might have some leeway whether or not you can use it. The amount of the work. Again, that's where we get the 10% myth from, is that we want to know how much can I reuse without paying licensing fee. There's no exact amount. Generally, less is better. If you're reusing the whole work, you're going to have a harder time justifying that. And that's, again, I'm thinking kind of like book length or, you know, a section of an illustration or something. And also how much you're using in the class. If you're using it every time you teach the same class, if you only use it once, things to consider. And possibly the most important, the effect of use. Is it possible to license the work and you're just choosing not to because you think you'll get away with it? If you are not licensing it, does that have an effect on sales? So these are just some things to think about. Again, there's no hard and fast rules. All right, Catherine has a question about Pixabay. If Pixabay says no attribution required, do you reference title, user, URL? So this is a good question. Generally, you don't have to cite public domain works. If someone says, you know what, this is public domain, if they put what's called a Creative Commons 0 license on it, which means that they're actually waiving their right to copyright, technically you don't have to cite it. I like to anyways, though, just to keep myself organized so that I know where I got an image, because I forget, and I make a lot of presentations and I forget. So usually I'll cite it anyways and basically do everything except for, instead of the Creative Commons license, you would put used under public domain or used under CC0, whatever it is that they listed it. Renata asks, are there examples of companies violating the fair use principles? I can't think of companies. I bet if we just did a Google for fair use violation, you would see some. I've seen things like even churches that make flyers that use copyrighted images, even though they're nonprofit and they're just like circulating a flyer, they've gotten some cease and desist letters. There's a lot of examples of a lot of little things. I mean, like, no one's probably going to take you to court right away unless they thought that an entire institution of higher learning or something was engaging in kind of being a little shady about copyright. I mean, I think if you Google it, you'll find some examples, and there are some really big examples. But usually, if you're using something inappropriately and the copyright holder finds out, they'll probably just send you an email saying, knock it off. Oh, Kelly's got a good question. If the museum owns a really old painting, do they own the copyright of the image, or do they own the copyright of the photo of the painting? So if they own a really old painting, the person that owned copyright would have been the person that painted it, and they're probably dead, and they've probably been dead for a long time. So the museum doesn't really own anything. Technically, the public would own. It'd be in the public domain is what I'm trying to say. So anyone could reuse the image of that work and it would be totally cool. So, I mean, that basically would be the photo and scan. That is like classic books. So you'll see Shakespeare, obviously, he's been dead for a very long time. Another example that's still in copyright is Ansel Adams photographs. Ansel Adams has been dead for a long time, but if you don't know who Ansel Adams is, he makes the iconic black and white photographs of like the mountains and of really pretty landscapes. He's been dead for a really long time, but his family is still living large on copyright from his work. So they're the kind of family that would go to court and try to get after-death copyright extended. So it's a certain number of years after you die that your family still owns copyright to your work. And I think in the last 20 years, they've actually gotten it extended, which is kind of amazing to me. I think if you die, your copyright should die with you, but hey, I don't know. That's like Lindsay around the world. All right, so yeah, that is like classic books. Anything that's like on Gutenberg.org, really old stuff, Victorian literature, all of that is free because it's in public domain. So good questions. Okay, finding graphics and video. So finally, I'm going to show you a few resources that are my favorite places to find openly licensed works. So we already talked about Google. 100% of you have used Google to find images, so I'm not going to go into there. But I can show you really quick in action where that tools thing is, though. So let me get rid of my virtual laser pointer. Go away. Okay, so let's pull that up. I'm going to move my browser over. So hopefully you see my browser now. It's not too wide. Okay, so this is Google Images. Do an example for, like, I don't know, Schoolhouse. All right, so again, here's the tools button right here. The usage rights doesn't appear unless you click on it. So click tools, and then you'll see usage rights. And again, right now, the default is not filtered by license because you're getting copyright stuff in there. I'm going to choose labeled for reuse with modification because that's basically you're allowed to do the most things with these things. And then you end up getting a lot more pictures rather than clip art. So you can see as I scroll over, a lot of these are from Wikimedia. That is the little sister of Wikipedia, and almost all the graphics on there are Creative Commons licensed or public domain. Pixabay is really good. All images on Pixabay are public domain. Flickr will also appear on here because the images will be Creative Commons licensed. If that's how they appear in here. Again, a lot of Wikimedia here. So if you want to click on it, don't just copy it from here and then move on with your life. I always visit the website itself to see what the exact terms are and to get all the information for the citation. So if I wanted to use this picture of this really cool schoolhouse, first off, I check the Creative Commons license. I can't point to both things at once since I'm on the computer, but in the bottom left, you'll see that it says creativecommons.org/licenses/by/2.0. It's a little URL that appears in your browser to tell you where you're going to go. You can also just actually click on this. I could just do that, couldn't I? All right, so if you click on it, it tells you exactly what the license is. I explained earlier that we're on 4.0 now. 2.0 is just an older version, so that means this work is probably a little bit old, and someone put a Creative Commons license on it a little while ago. And that's okay. That just means that the language behind it hasn't updated since then. So that's important. The name of the person that did it is important. The title of the work, I'm doing bad job highlighting. That's important, and then you can grab the URL from the browser bar here, and that's how you would cite it. Thanks, Dr. Cotro. She put the URL in there for Wikimedia. All right. Pixabay. A lot of the time I'll bypass Google Images, and I'll go straight to Pixabay. So I'm always finding free stuff to use in tutorials, either for when I make storyline interactive tutorials or when I make videos for Pollock Library. You need a lot of pictures. So I just scroll down and look at some of them here. So you can see there's a few categories here: photos, illustrations, vector graphics, videos. They put the prettiest ones on the front page, but if you search for stuff, sometimes you'll find your pickings are a little bit slimmer because everything on here is free for you to use. So this one's labeled CC0 Creative Commons. The CC0 means that whoever created it said, I don't need to keep copyright, this is now CC0, and you can kind of just release it into the world, and that's okay. So technically, again, there's no attribution required. Technically, you don't have to tell anybody where you got this. You can keep it a total secret. Again, I like to still give credit for these things, at least with where I got them, what the title was, because I like to keep myself organized again. And also because sometimes I download the smaller version when I wish I downloaded the bigger version, and I can't remember where I got it, so that's another reason to do that. So anyways, everything on Pixabay is free, and they also have videos on here. Let's see what we can find. Let's do technology. I think there's some really cheesy technology videos, if I remember right. Yeah, okay. So they do have ads, so watch out for the ads at the top there. But they do have videos on here. It probably isn't streaming so well through your computers. But they do have a lot of short videos that you can reuse for free. So again, if you're making videos, this one apparently is on a loop, and I could watch it forever. But this one also is labeled CC0, free for commercial use, no attribution required. So even if you're looking for something for a fee-based program or something for your business, you can still use Creative Commons works as long as they don't ban commercial uses. So that's a good thing. Okay, so let's make that small again. All right, and then I was already on Flickr. Well, we talked a little bit about Flickr. Flickr is a great enabler of Creative Commons because they let people label their works with Creative Commons. Well, I wanted to go to Flickr. Did I not link it? I did link it. Okay. So if you click on that, there's actually a Creative Commons landing page for Flickr. So rather than just doing a search of all of Flickr, you can look just for Creative Commons licensed material if you want. So you can browse through these. A lot of the time you're looking for something, at least I'm looking for something in particular, so I like to search. And then, let's see, what's another one I could do? I don't know. Librarians, find some terrible pictures of librarians. Just do search everyone's uploads, and you should be able to narrow it down after you do your search. All right, here it is. So you can go any license, and I'm going to say all Creative Commons stuff. All right, so I did my search for librarian, and just like Google Images, you can filter your search results to all Creative Commons. So now all of these can be reused. And same deal, you just scroll down, see what the license is. So this one, if I was making a commercial use of this for some reason, if I'm making an event or presentation I'm going to charge people to go to, I couldn't use this image. But if I'm just doing a video tutorial for Pollock Library, I can totally use this image. So just remember to link back for that. So that's pretty easy. Again, you just do search and you select that Creative Commons license. All right, back to this. All right, so let's practice one. So imagine that you found this graphic on Flickr and you want to cite it. So let me pull up that practice. I'm launching it. All right. Go ahead and consider which one of these is correct and give me your answer. Give you another few moments to consider. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call it. So this one you do have to cite because, let me get my little laser pointer out, because you'll see the Creative Commons license picture right there. So it says some rights reserved. If you click on it, it'll take you to the Creative Commons license to tell you exactly what you have to do with it. So unless it said public domain or something, you do have to cite it. And here's how you would do so. So again, I have the work's title, I have the creator, I have the license, and I have the link back to the original work, so that if someone wants to know where I got my work, if I want to remember where I got my work, I could go back to the original, or whoever's looking at the work that I created can go back and see where I got my stuff. All right, good work with that. So let's talk about finding sound and music. So if you're making an interactive tutorial or again a video, it's fun to add in sound effects, and it's a nice little ad to have music too. If made for the intro or the end of your video, I use a lot of music for that. Sound effects are super fun. I really love freesound.org. Well, let me click on it, laser pointer. It will not. Let me disable that again. All right, here we go. Thank you, Dr. Gocho, for putting these in. All right, so this is free sound. They have fun little things like they always have a random sound of the day, so you can search or you can check out what the current sound is. Let's see what this one is. I love this website. These are all just sound enthusiasts, and they all just record sounds around them and post them online. I think it's the most amazing thing. You guys drive your dogs and cats crazy by doing a doorbell. Let's see how this one is. So anyways, all of these are free. They're all under Creative Commons licenses. So say you thought this one was fantastic, you can download it. You do have to create a free account. So I have a free account, and I use this all the time to download stuff. And it tells you, again, right here what the license is. So those are the terms you have to follow. A lot of them are just attribution only. Some of them are non-commercial. Some of them are public domain, but most of them are attribution, so you just have to give credit and, again, link back. So this is a super fun website, and there's so much stuff on here. All right, so another one. All right, so I think this is my last big recommendation, Free Music Archive. This one I haven't used as much, But the last one I showed you, free sounds, is more like sound effects, and this one's more actual music. So this is kind of the same thing. You can go through by genre if there's a certain genre of music you want to use. If you open it up, it should tell you how you can use it. So this one's a little bit restrictive. Let me zoom in here. So this one has all the clauses. This one you can't use commercially, and this one you can't make derivative works of. So if you wanted to use this, you could, but you couldn't use it for anything that people have to pay for, and you wouldn't be able to edit it at all. So that means you can't change the volume of the sound, you can't do a fade in or a fade out, you couldn't sample it or put it in part of a larger song that you're making yourself. So something to consider. So this is something nice, maybe you could just use for video that you're making. Yeah, so you see all those terms there. So what is the question? If you use this in your class without any visuals, do you still show the citation? So when I'm being really conscientious, I'll try to put it on the same slide so it's visual in the PowerPoint. A lot of the time, I will actually just put the citation into the notes for a PowerPoint, or I'll put a credit slide at the end. Again, I mostly find visuals like these for videos that I do, and so what I do is I do a credit slide at the end of the video where I put everything in there. So generally, yeah, I try to be good and, you know, lead by example and show people by demonstration the right way to do things, but sometimes it's hard to keep really organized too. So it's also important when I'm preparing to develop something like a presentation or a tutorial or a video, I'll try to keep like a little notepad file. So I'll save all the visuals that I like in a folder on my computer, but then I'll also have a little notepad file where I copy and paste in where I got all of them. So it's kind of just like writing a research paper. As you do your research, write down where you get things of, and you'll avoid plagiarism. So that's a good thing. All right, one more practice activity. So this is a cool free sound. It's a war horn sound. Let me launch this poll. This will be your last citation practice. So good luck. All right, so that's launched. Go ahead and figure out which one of these you think it would be. I'll give you a few more moments. All right, most of you have voted. I'll go ahead and end polling, and we got 100% in the class. Awesome. So let me go to the next slide. Actually, before I go to the next slide, let me pull up the old laser pointer again. All right, so you do see the license right there. It's the Attribution Non-Commercial License. Again, if you clicked on it, it would take you to more details about that. And again, you cite the title of the work, you cite the creator, you cite the license, and you say where you got it from. So someone is cool enough to put this online for you to use, be cool enough to give them credit and to link back to them. That's a good thing. All right, so well done on that. Very good. All right, so kind of a little recap slide, pretty much to the end here. So, safe and not so safe. So when you're navigating copyright, so again, this is a 21st century skill because there's so much content out there for you to reuse, but you need to think about how to reuse it ethically and legally. And again, this is one of those things that takes some effort to remember to do and to do correctly, but it's really good practice and it's really good to get you in the habit. So it's always safe to use Creative Commons licensed material under the terms of the license. So whatever license they stick on there, make sure you follow it. Using public domain works, always super cool. Again, you don't have to attribute them. I do because I'm a space cadet and I can't remember where I got things. And also it helps whoever is looking at your work to know that it is public domain. So it's kind of a nice thing. Oh, and that also means that if someone's looking at it and they want to reuse it, they know they can reuse it because it's public domain. So that's really nice. Okay, so linking externally to copyrighted resources. So this bullet point originally came from teaching faculty about copyrighted resources. So if you have like a password protected course and you're posting copyrighted stuff in there, you're probably not going to get caught, but if you want to link externally, that's much better practice. So if you want to link externally to YouTube, YouTube does have an embed feature, so if you want to embed a YouTube video in your pass-protected course, you could. But in general, if you can link to it someplace else, that makes it someone else's problem, so that's a good way to keep yourself safe. All right, so I just mentioned this. Be careful posting copyright materials to your course. Never post anything copyrighted outside of your course. And Lindsay, that's my name. Dr. Gocho did post my webinar from last semester if you want more fun 20 apps. All right, I do have a Kahoot. I don't think we quite have time for Dr. Gocho. Do you want to do Kahoot or not? And Kelly's asking, sure, okay, let's do Kahoot. Let me turn off the laser pointer. So we have time for this. So it's a super fun Creative Commons and copyright Kahoot. Let me close some of my tabs because I'm a little aggro about tabs. All right, so all you need is whatever device you have at hand to play a Kahoot. If you haven't played one before, you may know that I'm slightly obsessed with them if you've seen my presentations before. Let's do a classic. All right, so all the instructions are on screen. If you have this open on your computer, you can just open another browser window. Oh, it's going to be so loud. I apologize for that. You can just open another browser window, go to kahoot.it, and put in your game pin. All right. Kelly is asking if there's free character sets available. I haven't seen any good ones. So Captivate does have some built-in characters. They're mostly photographs, and they tend to be more business people. Storyline has really cute illustrated characters. I don't know any free ones. You might be able to get some one-offs here and there, but you definitely have to pay if you want a really good set of a lot of characters that you can reuse in different poses. There's a lot of icons available online if you want icons, but characters, yeah, not so much. You could do your own, but that would take forever. All right, I've only got two players in the Kahoot so far. I'll give you another moment or two. Hugo has joined us. Kelly has joined us. Excellent. All right. Can't remember how many people are in here. All right, so I'll give you about another 15 seconds to get logged in. We're up to 6 players, which is awesome. I think it's only 7 or 8 questions, so it shouldn't be too long. And by the way, the prize at the end is glory. I have nothing super fun to give you other than kudos and a virtual high five. Now we're up to 7 people. Is anybody else going to join us? 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, if you haven't joined us yet, you can play along in spirit. You'll see the questions on the thing. All right, so there's actually 9 questions. The first one I think is a gimme question, so you can get used to the interface. All right, so this is just so you can figure out how this works. There's no points for this question. This is just a getting to figure out Kahoot question. So what was Cal State Fullerton's original name? I got a cool vintage photograph on there. Four seconds, 3. Oh, what was it? This is where I can't remember the first name either. Oh, I didn't even tell you the answer. It was Orange County State College. You guys got it. All right. So that was the gimme question. This one is for points. The faster you answer, the more points you get. I just saw geometrical shapes. On screen, Renata, you'll see the question, and then on your own device and your own browser is where the buttons are to answer, and those buttons correspond to the screen. So on your own device, you don't see the answers, you just see the shape. So click on that to match the screen. It makes more sense if you're in real life, I guess. So sorry about that. All right. Yes, the by symbol requires users to attribute the creators. So who is it by? Tell us who it's by. All right, Nicole is in the lead. Question 3 of 9, the SA symbol. This is a tough one because I only mentioned it briefly. All right, you got it. It is licensed derivative works exactly the same. So it stands for share alike. And so however they've licensed it with the share alike license is how you have to also share it alike. So whatever license they use, you have to use. It's kind of a tricky weird thing, but good. Nicole's crushing it. Cat's close behind. All right, ND. ND. All right, you got it. ND means no derivatives. Nailed it. Okay. Cole's on fire. Streaking ahead. NC symbol. All right, sorry, I'm answering Rena's question. Nicole clicked the wrong one. All right, so NC means non-commercially. Nicole has fallen to second because she clicked the wrong one. It happens, it's okay. Still anybody's game. So Kat has pulled into the lead. It's still anybody's game. All right, 4 more questions. I said this one a bunch, so hopefully you guys will get this one. All right, you got it. So all Creative Commons licenses require the user to attribute the author to say who it's by. So I said creator through most of this. But if you look at the picture of all the licenses, they all have that by in them. So you always got to say who it's by. Nicole's back in the lead. All right, 3 more questions. CC0 symbol, what does this mean? Five seconds. 2, 1. You got it, public domain. So CC0 means that there is no copyright. It's a little X over the C. So the C is copyright. It's a C. Anyways, and the little X over the C means it's not copyrighted. So you also have to work as the copyright holder to say, you know what? No more copyright. Totally cool. All right. Doc is on answer streak 4. Cole's in the lead. 2 more questions. In what situations can you use copyrighted works? Five seconds. Oh, everyone answered. Yep, fair use doctrine. Perfect. I will not belabor that. I will belabor that there are no hard and fast rules. It requires your judgment. All right. Hugo's pulled ahead. Nicole, you're right behind. Last question. So the graphic's kind of distracting. I didn't choose it. What, 7? Sorry. 3, 2, 1. It requires your judgment. So yeah, there's no hard and fast rules. You can get some advice. If you had a lawyer, that's super. Otherwise, it requires your judgment. And the winner is Hugo. I'm sorry, Nicole, you had a good run. Doc's in second, Nicole's in third. If you want a screenshot, now is your chance for eternal Kahoot glory. So there's the final top 5. I'm going to minimize this. Excellent work. We do have, well, if you want to download my slides, I got an ID toolkit that has some more resources for free media. I am over my time. Do you have any questions? And also, would you please take the survey? Let me put this link in so you can take the survey. Dr. Gautreaux would be very appreciative. I would be appreciative. because you'd be helping make this series a success, and maybe you'll see me again next year. Did I spell it right? 2XWME, big and G. All right. Thank you so much for attending. Let me know if you have any questions. If you want, you can email me after. You can download my slides from my website. You can reuse them under Creative Commons. And this is what the survey looks like. So please do fill that out, and we'd be super appreciative.